Hi, this is Josh Winn from Winn Sound and the Liquid Pixel Group. I'm going to give you a tutorial today of the iPad interface that controls the Barrette Business Center AV systems. So what we're looking at here is we're going to just start with the left-hand menus, and this system really is designed so that you can pretty much navigate your way through it and kind of intuit your way through it. However, there are a few things on this tech interface that are a little trickier and do maybe need some explanation. The smaller interfaces in each room that are designed for professors and anyone else to be able to use them are exceedingly simple. But we'll talk through those as well. So starting here on the left side, we have our scheduling area. And if I tap that, we get some basic control for an auto shutdown. So this is going to shut down all three rooms, and you can adjust the time as needed. So maybe you want it to shut down at 10 p.m., then you need to enable it. And that enable will then just stay on until you turn it off. Room combining is actually controlled by sensors on each wall. Each of the two walls. So you don't generally have to do anything with this page. However, it is possible to override the wall sensors using this page. There could be some application where you would want a wall partway open and still combine the rooms or something like that. Or in the event that a wall sensor fails, this would be a way to manually combine and divide the rooms. So you can just tap on a setting and it'll the system will switch to that mode. There's some explanation here that describes how the rooms combine. So room B is considered the main room. The center room is considered the main room. And that has some impact on functionality. So for example, when you combine two of the rooms, you'll see that the smaller touch panels give you just an input for laptop at the podium and an input for the credenza PC. Well, that is going to be the credenza PC in the main room, which is the center room. So regardless of whether we're in this with B and C combined or we do all three of them, the center room, room B, is going to be the main room. That's where it's assumed that you're connecting your laptop or using the Blu-ray player or the credenza PC. There's a way around that, but that's just sort of the default setting. Now, we generally want to set our room combining mode prior to turning the system on, but it's not going to break anything, and that's kind of described here as well, what happens. If they're already on, the room's going to sync up to room B. Actually, that's going to be true. If room B is off, it's going to turn off to sync up. So regardless of whether it's on or off, it will sync up to room B. Then when you unsync a room, when you unjoin a room, so if we go from this setting to this setting, we've just divided C off to be by itself now. It's going to turn the projector off. Now you do actually have a little bit of time if for some reason you're about to use room C as a standalone room. You have a little bit of time where you can select a source in just room C, and it will route that source and leave the room on as opposed to turning the projector off. But if you don't assign any source in room C, then after a little bit it will turn off the projector. Now at the bottom here we have the lock buttons for the physical panels in each room. So if you're controlling an event from the iPad and you don't want anybody having access to the small touch panels in the credenzas, then you can just lock all three of them. And as you can see, when we select a room combining mode, all three panels are needed now because the rooms are divided. In this mode, we generally don't need the touch panel in room C, and so to simplify things, we've locked that one out. Now, if I manually unlock this one, we need to be aware that if we're going to control this combined BC room, if we're going to control that from the room C touch panel, there's a button on there that says, the PC and the credenza, or the Blu-ray and the credenza. Well, keep in mind, that's the one in room B. So that could be a little confusing, which is why, by default, when you open this wall, the sensor will put you into this mode and that panel will be locked. Okay, the next thing we would do typically in setting up for an event, once we've verified that our room combining is the way we want and our panels are set up locked or unlocked the way we want, and when this is locked, a message is displayed over the panel that just says this panel's locked. Use the iPad to unlock it if this panel is needed. Okay, so kind of working our way down, setting up for an event, the next thing we might do is decide what we want to do with our peripheral areas. So this is the west atrium, which is out at this end of things. No, I'm sorry, it's out at, if this is our room mode, it's out at this end of things. So from this view, we're kind of, you can see I've done these backwards, A, B, and C, but that's because typically the technician running an event from the iPad is standing at the back of the room and the presentation is happening up here at the front of the room. So Betzler Grill is out at this corner of things and the west atrium is over here. Okay, so this is the area that definitely requires a little bit of explanation because there's a limitation in your old audio processor, which may get replaced at some point, but for now it's still serving its purpose. So what we've done here, and if you're familiar with audio systems, you might be familiar with the concept of a bus. Well, we've got what we're calling the AUX program, and that's, you could think of it as the AUX program bus. So starting first, I'm going to start with the Betzler Grill because it's a little bit simpler, because it only has an audio source. So what we can do here is we can tell it to follow one of the rooms. Now you'll notice that room A is grayed out as well as room C. We can only follow room B, and that's because we're currently combined. So A and C are kind of not standalone rooms right now. They for the purpose of this overflow to the Betzler Grill, they don't exist. What we can follow is the combined room, which B is the master. If I change the room mode to where C is by itself, now we have that option as well. So if I set it to follow room C, then what you will hear in the Betzler Grill will be anything that you hear in room C. That includes microphones, it includes presentation audio or program audio. Obviously same with room B, or the combined room A and B. Click it off. Now we have no audio source in Betzler Grill. And the auxiliary program bus, if we select that, I'll get to kind of how we pick what's on that bus in just a minute. But that's another way to listen to either the CD player that's in the rack within the Barrette Center closet where the chairs are stored. Either that CD player or an iPod, which can be run through that CD player. That's how that works. There's an iPod cable back there, and that there's a setting on the CD player itself. Read the label on the front of the CD player, and we've put some instructions on there for how to switch that CD player back and forth between running a CD or using its iPod input. And there's a cable laying there for the iPod. So that's one option, or cable TV would be another option. And the cable TV, at the time we installed this, was nothing more than an HDMI cable laying there ready for a cable box. So at some point that may get installed, at which point that could be tuned to a particular channel with music on it and used for the auxiliary program bus. So those are your options there, but here's where you would select that bus to be then heard in the Betzler Grill. Now, the West Atrium is a little bit trickier because it does have 2 TVs. So we have a couple of TVs there, and we can also do, it has the same ceiling speakers, so we can do audio sources as well. So here we can follow a room, and you'll notice as the audio video source selected, we're now following room B. So anything, whether it's microphones or presentation audio, will be heard in the West Atrium. And the presentation video will be seen on the 2 TVs out there. Now this little audio icon is just a little bit of a help for us to know that that's also the audio source, because we can also do an independent audio source if we prefer. So you might have in the West Atrium a PowerPoint slideshow running prior to an event with some ads on it or something like that. So maybe that's your video source, but maybe you want the CD player or the iPod or the cable TV tuner as your audio source out there for some background music. So we can choose that as our audio source. And now we have video from the room B presentation system, so whatever's on the projector in room B, which will also be on the projector in room A because they're combined. But we're listening to the auxiliary program bus. And then obviously volume controls over here. Now, we have a none/off for both of these, so there I just turned off the TVs in the West Atrium, and that does actually turn them off. You don't really have to think about turning TVs on and off or projectors on and off as long as you're assigning a source or clearing the source. All of that is automated for you. Now, we're still hearing the auxiliary program bus, so we can turn that off independently. We can also have this be on, and let's say we're going to follow room C. I can steal this back and forth, and you can see the audio follows whichever one. And actually, in this case, I can press that again and pull it right back. So lots of flexibility there, and we try to develop that interface to make that as intuitive as possible, but it does usually take a minute to kind of get your head wrapped around how that works. A little note here, actual input sources for these options can be set on the manual AV routing page. And that's next. So we jump down here. Now, we can manually route any source to any destination, which is not possible on the smaller interfaces within the rooms. Those are, again, designed to be simple. But here on the tech interface, we can do that. So the way we route, and again, where room A is on the right, because the assumption is technician standing at the back. So here I might route the room A laptop to, let's just put it on all 3 projectors. And if we were standing in the room right now, we'd hear screens coming down and the lifts coming down, and projectors would come on and show that input. I might show the cable TV on the 2 displays out in the atrium. We have a rack monitor, which can be useful, especially if you are trying to adjust the cable TV tuner with its handheld remote. Then you might route that right here, which it already is. That rack monitor is in the equipment rack back in the chair closet, and the monitor itself is not controlled by this system, so you would have to use its own power button to make sure it's on. But otherwise, you'll get that video source there. And you'll notice that we don't have any way to control the cable TV like these handy little remote icons. We don't have one for the cable TV yet because there wasn't a tuner at the time of install, but that could be added. But for now, the assumption is that you're going to stand there at the rack using this monitor and adjust the TV to be on whatever channel you'd like, or the tuner, sorry. Now, if I want to send one of the Blu-ray players to, let's send it to all 3, and I'm going to send it to the audio. And that's separated now because this is full manual AV routing, matrix routing. So you might want the CD player on the audio for now, and you might want a PC or a Blu-ray or whatever else on the projector. So you have all that flexibility. Now with the Room A Blu-ray routed, I may want to tap its remote, and then I get controls for it. And those are all pretty self-explanatory. Now you'll notice that this audio is grayed out. That's because Room A and B are combined, so we're thinking of this as the master, but we can actually route two separate sources to the two projectors. But the audio systems are combined, so you wouldn't ever want to route two different things there. If you do, then just divide the rooms into individual rooms and you have that flexibility. And you can, of course, manually do that from the room combining page without even moving the walls. Okay, so one thing that needs explanation here is this little connector between the PC and the Blu-ray. The PC and the Blu-ray are actually coming into the video switching system on a single cable. They share an input into the system, but within the credenza there is a small video switcher that's switching back and forth between those two. So you can't actually route the Room A PC and the Room A Blu-ray at the same time. You'll notice as I do that, all three of these change because those are linked. So that little switcher within the rack is changing, so I can't use both of these at the same time. If you did need a PC and a Blu-ray at the same time, you would need to do a different Blu-ray player. So we can use Room B's Blu-ray player. And that doesn't affect Room A's switcher because it's, the link is between those two. So that could be a little confusing, but the likelihood of needing both of those at the same time seemed pretty low, and so we designed the system to be more cost effective by internally switching those within the credenza. Okay, now the auxiliary program bus. That's right here. So we can assign something here. We can assign the cable TV to that, the cable tuner, which isn't really just for TV, obviously. It's can just have audio channels on it as well. So we can assign that, or we can assign the CD player / iPod input on the CD player. And you'll notice other things gray out because this is an audio source, so I can only send it to these audio destinations. And this is a video source, so I can only send it to certain destinations. I can only send it to a projector or a display or the room audio just because that's the way that works, because this is a presentation source. The physical limitations of your audio processor, though, which is 10 or more years old, means that this auxiliary program bus is actually only limited to the cable TV or the CD/iPod. So with the CD iPod sent to it, we can go back now, and in our peripheral areas, if we select this, now we hear the CD player or the iPod. Okay, so that's how that works. This is the bus, you select it, and then over here you choose what's on that bus. Now, if I want to turn off a display or end the audio, I can do clear, and I can go around and clear all of these if I want. And in the case of audio, it just stops, and in the case of video, it stops and it turns off the display. Okay. I think that's it for that screen. Next, room control is where we get to take over the small physical panel that's on the credenza in each room. So if I want to control room A and B, which are combined right now, I just tap that, and now I'm looking at that exact interface. The same interface that's on that on the credenza. So this can be kind of helpful too if you need to walk somebody through this. They can be looking at one while you're looking at the other, or things like that. Or actually if you get a call in, you can be controlling or looking at the system while the person you're talking to on the phone is looking at the physical panel. Now, this is a separate interface, so when I move around within the interface, that they won't see that happening. They're independent interfaces. So I can go across my tabs here at the top, and I'm not actually changing anything, I'm just navigating around the interface. They won't see that. However, if I select a video source, they will see that because that's real feedback from the actual hardware. So on this system, on this interface, it's simple. So we have, we just have the basic source selection. So I can either connect my laptop at the podium, and that can be connected either by the HDMI cable that's there or by the VGA with audio cable that's there. And whichever one I connect to, the system will auto detect that and select it. So I just need to tell it that I'm doing a podium laptop. The PC is the one in the credenza, and then of course the Blu-ray player also in the credenza. And we have the exact same remote controls for the Blu-ray here. So keeping in mind, with this being room A, B combined, B is the middle room. So when I choose this, we're going to see the PC that's in the room B credenza, the center room. Okay, I'm going to jump to the settings now, and the settings almost never need to be accessed. But on occasion you might need something here. So, keeping in mind that back on our manual routing page, we had this link between these two. Over here on the room control, we have a monitor on top of the desk, on top of the credenza. That monitor is going to show only one of those two sources, either the PC in the credenza or the Blu-ray player in the credenza. So normally, if you select one of those for presentation on the big screen, on the projector, it's going to automatically switch that desktop monitor also. But if you want to be able to queue up things to show the, maybe you want to be able to queue up a Blu-ray disc prior to sending it up to the projector, then you want to do that using the desktop monitor. Well, you can come here and manually change that desktop monitor over to the Blu-ray player without actually affecting anything up on, without actually basically turning on the projector first. Now, this is just basically going to be sitting on whichever one it was used last time. So without turning the projector on, you can switch it to the other one if necessary. That display is also not controlled in terms of its power, so you may need to manually turn it on, although those are generally just left on. Now, we can't show the Blu-ray on the desktop monitor while presenting the PC on the projector. That's not possible because we're, again, switching that switcher that's in the credenza. This is only for allowing you to preview one without turning the projector on. Okay, we also have manual on-off controls for the projector here, but really shouldn't need those. Everything should be automated. That would just be some strange situation where you want to, I don't know. It's there just in case. Because we like to give you enough options, but you shouldn't ever need that. Okay, so that's your basic presentation, and in fact, for most professors that are gonna do something in here, or an event where you've got somebody renting the space, this is probably the only page they're going to need, because it lets them do their presentation, and they can control their audio down here for that presentation, mute the speakers, and when they're done, they're going to hit the power button, and if they walk away, it will shut down automatically in 1 minute, but of course they can cancel or go ahead and shut down. So I'm going to shut this room down. So I'm shutting down the A and B combined space. The projector is going away, the screen's going up, and the audio is muted. Now, while that's doing, I don't have to sit here and watch that. I can control room C at the same time. So room C is currently off, so we see this screen. And this is exactly what you see on the small touch panels. So here, touch the screen to start. Fires things up, kind of puts things in a default state so that every time somebody uses the system, they get the exact same experience. They don't have to worry that, oh, somebody else left one of the microphones, they left the podium mic muted or something like that. There's no way to do that because every time you shut the system down and start it back up, you get a clean start exactly the way it is every other time when you walk in. And that kind of helps give people a sense of confidence that they're going to be able to operate the system when it behaves consistently like that. So controlling room C now, exact same interface, same functionality. And in fact, if we jump back over here, we can probably see, it's still working on shutting down. Okay, so back to room C. And the next screen over is for the audio source. Now, when we go there, we see we have a toggle button to use a separate audio source and a note saying that normally the video source is also the audio source, which is why I say typically people using this space aren't going to need this page. But if you want to use a separate audio source, you have a couple of options. So first we have to enable this, and we get a little indicator here so that if we're on another page, we can visually see that the video and audio are separated. And now we just killed our audio, so we're no longer hearing anything. So in this mode now, we can choose to have a couple of different sources for the audio. So either that CD or iPod that's back in the rack, and again, we have controls for it. Now, you're not going to be standing there looking at the front of the CD player typically when you're doing this, so it's a little bit of guesswork to skip the track and find the right track and that sort of thing. So this is really more for background music probably than anything else. If you're going to do something that's a little more critical in terms of playing the correct track at the correct time, you're probably going to want to do that using something like the podium analog input. So this, if we select that, sorry, this is a demo. I'm not actually connected to the system. That's why we didn't get any feedback there. But that would turn blue like all the other buttons. And that in this mode now, we can connect either an iPod or maybe a laptop using the 3.5 millimeter stereo headphone style jack that's at cable that's at the podium. So that's the one that's connected to the VGA video cable. So we can actually have presentation video coming from the podium laptop, which can be connected by its HDMI cable. And then we can come over here and say, yeah, but I want to use that little headphone cable thing and plug that into my iPod and listen to that. So now we're listening to that while watching what's on your laptop via the HDMI cable, because we've split those. So it just gives you some extra flexibility if you've got one person handling the whole presentation from the podium and they want to do some background music. You don't even have to use that CD player. They can have an iPod sitting right out there on the podium. Okay, and this also lets you run that music without turning the projector on if you want. So you can come over here to the audio source and turn this one on, and then you can have your audio. And then jump back over here whenever you're ready and click that, and now your projector comes down. And maybe at that point, as your presentation is starting, you want to disable that, and now this is also your audio source via the HDMI from your laptop. Now, keeping in mind that can be a little tricky because different laptops, different operating systems require different settings. They will generally try to automatically switch to the audio over that HDMI connection, but you sometimes will have to mess around with a person's laptop to go into their audio settings and make sure that it's outputting the content audio, the program audio on the HDMI cable. Okay, so that's the audio source tab. The next tab over is your microphone controls, and we're here in room C, so we just have a podium mic and a wireless mic. Now, these often won't need any adjusting. The podium mic has some compression on it so that it's kind of auto level based on how loud the person is speaking. So a lot of times you won't need any adjustment. But here it is if you do need it. Now if I go over to room A and B, let's turn that room back on. It's recalling all the defaults. Now if I jump over to the mic controls for this page, you can see that I have some additional things because I've got two rooms combined. So I've got the wireless for both rooms and the podium for both rooms. Now in the actual system, where we're connected to the audio processor, one of those defaults is that when rooms are combined, the room that is not the primary room, so in this case room A, because room B is the center room, room A's podium mic gets automatically muted. And so this button would be red. Now you can come in and unmute it if you need to use that podium mic, but by default it's going to be muted. Okay, I think that pretty well covers everything. I'm going to shut the room down just because I like to leave things cleaned up, even though this isn't even a real system I'm talking to. And then we can go back, and if I want, I can tap my little logo there, and that clears the page. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, you can contact us. Get on the web, look up Winn Sound, and get in touch with us. Our contact info is also on the system drawings, which you have a PDF of, and all the source code is provided, so should be able to see what's going on with any aspect of the system. But it should give you a pretty good overview of it. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything else. Thanks.